All right, we are live. Welcome to the Unlocking Manhood podcast. We have a special guest today, former NFL quarterback Chris Miller. I know him well as C-Mill. He's a dad of two. His son Dylan's 27. His daughter Jessie is 26. He's a Sheldon High School graduate, two-time all Pac-12 quarterback at the University of Oregon. Drafted the 13th overall by the Atlanta Falcons in 1986, enjoyed a 10-year NFL career, including a Pro Bowl appearance in 92. Coached professional football for 4 years, 19 years coaching high school football, including 2 state championship victories. 1999 is inducted into the University of Oregon Sports Hall of Fame, and 2004 into the State of Oregon Hall of Fame. So, C-Mill, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, Thomas. It's good to see you, brother.
Absolutely. So I'm going to start into your NFL journey and what you learned from that. I was going back when getting ready for this interview, and I watched some of the old NFL tapes of you against Troy Aikman, and the game was so much different back then.
Yeah.
What was the most challenging part about playing quarterback in the NFL?
I tell you, the biggest challenge is I was a first-round draft pick in 1987, which was a strike year. And so there were about 14 of us first-round draft picks. We didn't sign till Halloween of that season. So I missed the majority of my rookie year. I missed all the training camp, and I didn't have that time to prepare. So by the time I got to Atlanta, I think the team was about 2-7 or 2-8. And the energy was gone. The enthusiasm was gone. And I got there and my eyes are wide open and bright. And I'm excited to finally get to the NFL to play. And it was like, man, these guys are ready for the season to be done. So that was quite an adjustment period that year. And then really my rookie year became my second year, which was 1988. So my career kind of ascended at that point. I got to play 2.5 games in 1987, my first year. So at least I got a little taste of it. The team wasn't very good. I think we finished 3-12 that year, only played 15 games that year due to the strike. And then 88, the arrow started pointing up. I think I led the NFL and lowest interception rate in 1989. So I was taking care of the football and, learning the game. And by 1991, 92, we went to the playoffs and I was able to make a Pro Bowl. And I was, second in the National Football League in QB rating behind Steve Young in 1992. And then unfortunately, I tore my ACL in back-to-back years. And that was tough. So I went through some adversity at that point in time. And I really felt like I was really starting to ascend into a top-tier quarterback in the league. And so then I signed with the Rams as a free agent. I grew up being a Los Angeles Rams fan back in the day and signed with the Rams to play on grass. And no sooner, the second year I'm there, they move us to St. Louis and the Georgia Dome or the Trans World Dome on AstroTurf, right? So then I started banging my head against the turf and got some concussions and had to retire once. But I went back and played in 1999 with the Denver Broncos after a 3-year hiatus. And I really finally learned what a top organization looked like from the top down. They had just won back-to-back Super Bowls in 1997 and 1998. Elway retired, and I ended up signing to play with Denver in 1999. So I kind of learned from Mike Shanahan and Gary Kubiak, what a Super Bowl type club organization looked like from top to bottom. So that was very beneficial in my future coaching career.
Do you think that the gap is closing now between what the high-end organizations look like in the league and what the middle of the road to the bottom bit of the barrel teams? Is that gap closing, or is there still a pronounced difference between those top 3 or 4 teams and everybody else?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the gap is closing. I think parity has become a lot better. I don't know what the Detroit Lions final record was this year, but I know they were extremely competitive and lost maybe 8 or 9 games by a touchdown or less. Dan Campbell, I love that coach. Just using Detroit as an example. Cincinnati used to be kind of one of those lower tier organizations, but you see what a great quarterback can do.
Boom.
Yeah. I mean, he's something else. And then Zach Taylor, the head coach, is phenomenal. And so I think what you see now is due to the salary cap, everybody has to spend up to the salary cap. So back in the day, when I was a free agent, when I signed with the Rams, I actually went to a few other clubs as a free agent. And I went to Detroit, and I was kind of told, hey, here are the top free agents in the market on this board over here, but we can't sign those guys. We got to sign the second tier type free agents back then. So a lot of it was kind of economically oriented back in the day. And you had those few great organizations that kind of set the tone for the NFL back in the years with Bill Walsh and some of those organizations. So, but I think parity is getting a lot closer. I think the talent level is becoming spread out a lot better with free agency, and the amount of money that guys are making now with some of these contracts is unreal. But like we talked about it with your first question, the game has just evolved over time. There's no more bad athletes on the field. I mean, you watch the NFL Combine, and there's defensive linemen weighing 320 pounds running 4.7, 4.75, 4.8, and so training is amazing, diet is amazing. The game and the amount of money that's being thrown around. And I think you'll see Detroit this year maybe going from a 1 or 2 win team, and maybe they'll win 7 or 8 games this year. So I think parity, and I think it's healthy for football. Parity makes for a fan friendly game for sure.
Absolutely. So cycling around, you ended up retiring in 99. Is that right?
Yes.
So moving out of the NFL, what lessons did it teach you that helped you in your coaching and the second season in your life?
I tell you one thing that I really learned was I wish I would have appreciated the NFL more, maybe while I was in the moment. When I left Eugene, Oregon, from the University of Oregon, I went to Atlanta, Georgia. The bars were open till 4 a.m. and the women were gorgeous and friendly, and our organization wasn't very good. So we had a lot of fun while we were there, and probably too much fun at times. But so I think when you get removed from the game, especially as I've gotten into my 40s and 50s, I have a greater appreciation for, wow, what an incredible opportunity that was while I was involved. But I think really in terms of what I learned the most is, relationships were extremely important. I learned a tremendous amount of football from some really great coaches, June Jones and Mike Shanahan and Gary Kubiak. And I think, and you kind of take bits and pieces. Rich Brooks was my coach for the St. Louis Rams for a year, and he was my college coach at Oregon. So I really gained a greater respect from him as a man and as a person and as a leader, more so than I did in college, because I was so young and just kind of focused on playing ball. And, you really grow an appreciation for the time you put in. And it's an unbelievable profession. And, it's a huge business. And it takes a toll on your body. I sit here with a lot of aches and pains, daily aches and pains and things. And I can't imagine some of my lineman teammates or linebackers and guys who were banging and hitting and smashing every single play. So, but, I learned a lot of great lessons and probably a lot of the friendships and relationships I've made. And I think probably the biggest thing, Thomas, I learned was really to appreciate life and live in the moment and live for the time, because I've lost a lot of teammates. I've lost a lot of guys that I've played against in the league, a lot of coaches around my age over the last 3-4 years that have passed away. And, it's a tough business. And it's, like I said, it's tough on your body and can be tough on your mind. And so I've really view life as precious and want to make sure I live in the moment and take advantage of every moment.
I love that. Being present, absolutely huge. So my next question, get done with the NFL and you drop into South Eugene High School head coaching position.
Yeah.
And South was terrible coming in. Like what motivated you to move into that position?
Well, I tell you, the hiatus I had between 1995 and when I retired for 3 years, and I went back and played with Denver in 1999. I coached at Sheldon 1 year as a kind of a volunteer. And then I coached at Churchill for 2 years with my high school offense coordinator, quarterback coach, Jack Wigmore. And he really taught me to love the game. He played at Washington State University and played for the Portland Storm, an old professional league back in the day, and just had this enthusiasm and zest and love for people, love for football. And then I went back and coached with him in the year 2000 after I retired from the NFL. And then I coached a year in 2001 for Marist High School, and I was the offensive coordinator there. So I kind of had a 4-year testing ground. And And then Jim Denker, a longtime athletic director and basketball coach at South Eugene, approached me about the South Eugene job and said, "Hey, look, we've struggled here for years. We haven't had we haven't had a winning season in 10 years. Would you be interested in applying for the head coaching position?" And me being a competitor, I was an offensive coordinator over at Marist, like I said. I'm like, well, you know what? I think I'm ready. I think I've learned enough football to go be a head coach and run a program. So I took it on. And I think the first year I was there, we went 1-8. We won our last game and beat North Eugene High School. We were competitive in every game, but Sheldon put it to us pretty good, 62-13. I remember that year in 2002. But we were competitive. We only had 64 kids in the entire program. And I remember we had to take a running back and a fullback and put them at guard on our offensive line because we were so thin with personnel. So, but I had a lot of energetic, enthusiastic assistant coaches. We had a passion for kids. I might not have been the best coach, but I think I brought a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of energy to it. I kind of learned as we went along because I coached from a player's mentality.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to really become a coach from a coaching mentality. So probably not until I coached for the Arizona Cardinals 2009, 10, and 11. But it was fun, man. I think the first year, like I said, we went 1-8. My goal was to make the playoffs in year 2. And we went 6-3 and finished 4th place in a very competitive Midwestern league. And we made the playoffs. And then we went one step further each year I was there. So I think we were like 31-21 for the 5 years that I was there through that stint, and had their first winning season in 10 years and went to the playoffs for the first time in a long time and went 4 straight years. So it was fun in those relationships. And we got the program up to, I think, 109 kids was our top in turn. So we got an additional, 45 kids out for football at a big soccer school. So that was kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel blessed because I don't think I would have been in the playoffs in my high school experience if you hadn't dropped into that position. So it was fun. Yeah. It was fun having you as coach. And what I remember about UCML is that regardless of what the situation was, you brought a swagger that you didn't give a shit. You were going to win each game. Like the mindset was always, we're going to win. And the flavor and the confidence was always there. And you could not help but to take that on when you put on your pads and you go out on the field. So
I appreciate that. I had Dino Filion and Kevin Leonard and some guys that kind of mirrored that enthusiasm and such. And we just kind of walked with a swagger and, young and dumb and full of energy and confidence and whatever. And a lot of you guys, players, played like that. So it made us proud as coaches. And here you are doing this at age 33. So it's cool to come full circle and reconnect with you, man.
Hell yeah. So what's the process that you go through in getting prepared? And maybe this is just the way you're wired to elevate your confidence so that when you go out, you talk in front of young men or you're talking in front of your team, that you exude a clear mission and confidence in your objective.
Well, I think number one, confidence, I've always use this statement, but if you're prepared, I think you're confident, and if you're prepared for an interview or you're prepared to go talk to a group of young men or a group of students or whoever it might be, if you're prepared and at least you have your message organized and how you're going to deliver it, I think you can exude that confidence. And I think being a quarterback in the National Football League, you have to have confidence to be successful. And sometimes, maybe I lack confidence at times saying, hey man, can I do this? And wasn't with a very good organization at times. And I took a lot of blame for our lack of success. And so that kind of, shoots your confidence down a little bit. But I think, I've always been a confident person in my abilities as an athlete. And then I think that kind of translates into becoming a coach. I think you become more confident the better you become as a coach and your ability to lead young people. I think at times probably my language wasn't the best it could be. And maybe some of my examples weren't the best they could be when I was younger, but that's kind of all I knew. And that's part of the growing process. So I think in terms of, confidence is something, not everyone's confident, not everyone's a natural leader. Some people are more passive and they like to kind of sit in the background and such. And I think one thing that I've learned, Thomas, is through the years, is how to connect with each individual on a different level, no matter whether they're a confident guy and they're a leader and you might have to talk them down a little bit. Hey, bro, you're a little bit full of yourself and your head's a little too swollen. Let's make sure we're not over the top here. Aaron Rodgers-esque or Tom Brady-esque or some of those guys, which makes them what they are. It makes them so great. They're so confident. Michael Jordan and such. But so I thank the good Lord for, learning and having some great mentors and some great role models through my years. I'm 56 now and I'm still learning. I think I'm still improving as a person, as a coach, and as a leader. So you never stop those things. And I think you always need to have a thirst to, gain more knowledge and learn more and improve yourself. So that's kind of my mantra.
Right on. I love that. So your journey continues. You get hired as the quarterback coach for Kurt Warner in Arizona.
Yeah.
What did you learn from that process of going full circle back to the NFL to be a mentor and a coach there?
Great question. I tell you what I learned. I really learned how to work. I had always been a guy, the good Lord blessed me with a lot of talent back in the day. And, I worked hard. I really committed myself at times at Oregon and in the NFL. But you see nowadays that, the workout programs these guys are on in the off season, Tom Brady getting 9 hours of sleep a night, him doing this amazing special diet so that he can be, still the best quarterback or one of the best quarterbacks in the game at age 44. And, I think what I learned is there were a bunch of guys from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania that were there. Russ Grimm, an 11-year All-Pro Hall of Fame NFL lineman. Mike Miller was one of my coaches that was there in Arizona. And these guys were from Pittsburgh. And there's that blue collar steel town mentality. And I'm kind of a chill West Coast dude born down in California, moved up to Oregon when I was young. And I just kind of had that chill flow and flavor about me, kind of how I talk, how I carry myself, my mannerisms. And man, when I got to Arizona in the NFL and I'm a quarterback coach and I'm coaching Kurt Warner, who's one of the smartest quarterbacks ever to play in the history of the National Football League, incredibly cerebral, photographic mind, all those things. You can't go into a meeting and not be prepared and not make sure that you have an answer to every question that he may ask. So it really held me to an amazing standard of studying our stuff, of knowing our plays well, of knowing our protections. And really, I didn't teach him any football while I was there. It was in the 12th year of his career. He's about 38 years old. So he was older. So really, I was there to kind of keep him in shape and work him on escape drills and movement drills. And he felt like his release got quicker in year 12 through some of the quick release drills we did. And then really I was an extra set of eyes for him. Hey, C-Mill, what'd you see there? Where would you have gone? Where would you have gone with the ball on that play? So it was nice just to kind of be that guy. I was kind of a sounding board for him. And he made me better too. And, a guy that went from bagging groceries to not having a job in football to clawing his way through football and becoming a Hall of Famer after a 12-year NFL career. The dude knew how to work, and he had a tireless work ethic that maybe I didn't have at times in my career. So he was a great example to me as well.
That's cool. And it's cool that, even though he's deep into his career, he's still taking every bit of knowledge that he can get from you, from other coaches, anything he can to level up. His mindset is on mastery.
Yeah, exactly. That's what got him to 3 Super Bowls, man. I mean, he had no team. He was with the New York Giants. He was a backup. He went to Arizona to back up Matt Leinart. He was great in a 2-minute drill. Next thing you know, he leads them to a Super Bowl. He wins one, and they make a movie about him. And played for Dick Vermeil in St. Louis with the Rams and won one there. Greatest show on turf, and incredible career. But a great human being, highly motivated, strong Christian, tremendous work ethic. His wife Brenda was a military gal. She was a military brat. I believe she was in the Army. So she's hard nosed too, and held him to an accountability and a high standard. So I think they're good for each other.
That's cool.
Yeah.
All right. Last question. What advice do you have for young leaders to elevate the attention and trust they have within their team? Whether it's a coach or a player, how can somebody elevate the attention and the trust that they're getting when they're speaking and communicating with their team?
Well, I think trust is earned. I think number one, you have to prove yourself in some way, shape, or form. If you're a coach, you have to have some success behind you. And everybody has to go into a first year. You have to jump into something new sometimes for the first time, like you've done with your group and your leadership position that you're doing with all the guys, the gentlemen that you lead and the young men you take on these cool excursions and stuff. So number one, I think trust is earned. I think leadership is earned. And like we talked about earlier, not everybody is a leader. So you need to identify who those leaders are. And I always use this phrase, and I don't know who I learned it from, but I think it was somebody in the National Football League. But the best teams, whether it's a workforce, whether it's an NFL team, whether it's whatever, a management team, are player led. So the best teams that are out there in football are the teams that are player led. The players lead the team. Then they build that camaraderie and that continuity and that trust and that leadership. And now I just become kind of a monitor. I kind of keep my eye on the pulse of the team. Maybe I have an inner circle or a leadership team. You have to empower your assistant coaches to be leaders with their position groups. And then I think you have your tentacles on the whole organization. And, great organizations and teams are led from the top down. So you have to give them the tools, the goals. What is our purpose here? What is our vision? Where are we going? You have to implement and integrate that plan. And then you just kind of have to follow it and make sure it permeates through the organization and down through your assistant coaches, for example, into your team or your players. And then those leaders, those natural born leaders on your team are the ones making the decisions. They're running the team, they're leading in a positive manner. And now their teammates will run through a brick wall for them. And then you really create that team atmosphere and that team environment. And I think you always have to have I've got Alex Molden on my coaching staff, or I just stepped down, but Alex is a guy who does these Shark Effect podcasts, and he posts them on Facebook a lot and probably on Twitter. So if you don't follow Alex Molden, make sure you do, Thomas. He's awesome. But he does these Shark Effect podcasts, and he just goes out and speaks to leaders. And now he's being hired to speak to corporate America, to Nike. Wow. And travels all over. And a good friend of mine, Mike Eruzione, who scored the winning goal in the 1980 Olympics for the U.S. hockey team. I just got chills and goosebumps through my body thinking about that moment when Al Michaels said, "Do you believe in miracles?" That was my good friend, Mike Eruzione, and he's been speaking to corporations for years. And he's used that coattail of scoring that winning goal in the 1980 Olympics as his platform. So, those guys are out there. They're always learning. They're staying sharp. Phil Knight's a friend of mine, and he's been the CEO for Nike for years. And I think about the book that he wrote and all the challenges and experiences that he went through. But, through hard work and leadership and perseverance, I think we're good examples to others. And then at the end of the day, like we talk about coaching trees in football, you see what Sean McVay is doing down there with the Los Angeles Rams. He's got about 5 or 6 guys now, maybe 4 or 5, who are now head coaches in the National Football League off his coaching tree. So they've obviously taken his special sauce. They've learned it. They've learned that program. And now these owners of NFL clubs want to have these dudes come in and replicate Sean McVay's program, much like Zach Hill just did with the Cincinnati Bengals, the head coach there. So that's it. That's what I got on leadership, learn from the great ones and try to be a great example and lift people up, servant leadership, I think, is important. Show them the way and then let them lead,
I love that. I love that, setting it up so you don't have to always be the voice in the room. You can establish good leaders, train other good leaders so that they're the one pulling the team. The player-led focus, I think, is huge for regardless of what type of organization. So
amen. Amen.
Cool. C-Mill, thank you so much for being on. This has been an absolute blast catching up, and I wish you the best with your daughter's wedding coming up and your next adventures.
T-Fan, thanks for having me on, brother. I tell you, I can't be more proud of you, going from the South Eugene weight room back in the day when we would yell T-Fan, you'd say, "What's up?" And now you're 33, sitting in a chair. You got 3 kids, leading a podcast, and you become a leader of men. I couldn't be more proud of you, buddy.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
You got it.